Oh, hi, Paul, class of 93. Interested in hearing about Jessica's experiences with online platforms, connecting with current students, offering support where I can, and taking my social media presence from good to great. You're in the right place. Okay. All right. We're all set. So, Jessica, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much again for everybody tuning in today. I know sometimes, getting into doing virtual events, is a new thing. We're all getting used to it, but I promise that at least I hope that you'll find this presentation to be extremely useful. If you have any questions during the presentation, like I will be happy to address them. This is not a formal presentation in any means. Like I'm going to be very relaxed during it, and I hope that you feel comfortable enough, asking me questions either throughout or at the end. But if you're not comfortable enough addressing any of the questions, then I'll have my contact information at the end, and you can feel free to email me. I really love connecting with students or alumni and being able to help people and mentor people in the best way that I can. So please don't be afraid to reach out to me. So this presentation is branding yourself, creating a professional online presence. And, Julie went over a little bit of my background, but before we dive in, I wanted to introduce myself just a little bit more. So I'm Jessica Moman, and I graduated from Northland in 2015. I double majored in biology and natural resources with an emphasis in wildlife and fisheries ecology. In 2019, I earned my master's degree from the University of Georgia in wildlife ecology and management. During my time at Northland, and before I started grad school, I worked at a number of different departments at the Field Museum in Chicago, ranging from herpetology, Chicago Regional Conservation, botany, anthropology, and mammals. After grad school, I also did some independent contracting work with the Zoological Society of Milwaukee as an independent consulting conservation research specialist, where I helped redesign their conservation department. And now I'm working for the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center, where I assist with applied wildlife ecology research, mainly focused on threatened and endangered reptiles and amphibians in Southern Illinois and in the Smoky Mountains. And I'm also on the alumni board for Northland, and I run the alumni Twitter page right now. So if you haven't liked the alumni Twitter page yet, please do, because it helps me connect more alumni together and in different ways, so we can all benefit each other and network with each other. So the reason I wanted to give you a background about myself, not only to help you, know me a little bit better, but for you to see that, my background's in wildlife, and your digital presence isn't only important for those like in business or art and writing, those fields we kind of commonly think of digitally branding yourself. It really has a place in all career tracks. So why bother with it? Online networking has become increasingly popular in recent years with how technology has been progressing, but COVID-19 has made this skill even more critical. We're not attending in-person conferences, job fairs, summits, workshops, etc., but we still need to be networking during this time. And how other are we going to do it than, via digital platforms? And this is one of the main reasons I pursued branding myself over the past year or so. I had made intended to make professional platforms several years ago on Twitter and Instagram, but I just really didn't have the time or effort to put anything into them. So I really kind of just let them sit there for years. But when COVID happened, my contracting job that I was working just happened to end right as COVID started. So I know I needed to really, bolster up my online presence in order to make myself marketable while I was trying to job search during a pandemic. So I wanted to have, a way to make myself stand out and to interact with others and build my network, and also show that, I didn't have this gap necessarily in my resume by reaching out and having other side projects that I was able to interact with people with through using Twitter, through using LinkedIn. I was able to have these side projects, so I didn't have these gaps in my resume during my time on the job market. Also, potential employers will conduct Google searches and social media searches on potential employees or individuals that are your potential graduate advisors. They will also do background checks and social media searches on you. This is because they want to make sure that you're a good fit for the company, and no red flags pop up when they look up your history, your background. So I also knew that I was going to have a bunch of employers looking at me. So I wanted to make sure that when they Googled me, I portrayed to them the professional that I am. And the big thing that we're taking away from all of this is that you want to shape your online persona, because it's very important when people are considering employment and career opportunities. And you want to be able to shape the story that you want employers to see. And that's kind of the general theme that we're going to keep coming back to throughout this presentation, is shaping the story you want employers to see. And what I mean by that is that when potential employers or advisors Google you, you want to create the story that you want them to see. You don't want the first thing that Google pops up when you search you to be like your Facebook page full of party photos. You want them to see that you're responsible, professional, creative, all those good things that you are, but maybe right now when somebody does a Google search of you isn't what is portrayed. Simply, you want to have control over your story. And for me, this has looked like creating a website, LinkedIn, ResearchGate, academia, Instagram, and Twitter accounts that are all dedicated to my fieldwork and my research. And this will look different depending on what career field you choose. And it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all, approach, but there's general themes that can apply to everybody throughout this presentation. So throughout today, we're going to go over personal social media platforms and using popular platforms as professional platforms. So, things like, using Instagram or Twitter, but having a professional account on there. Professional social media platforms, these are the ones that are like specifically designed to be hubs for your CV and your resume and connecting with other professional individuals. Personal websites, and then networking on social media. Each of these topics also could be a presentation in themselves. So, we're just going to go over these topics very high level today, but I'd be happy to create, more in-depth information on these topics if people are interested in the future or connecting personally with any of you to go further into them as well. It's a lot of information. I'm trying to distill it for you guys the best that I can in a concise amount of time. So first up, we'll go over social media. So it's important to note too, before we go over creating this, professional account on here. So what I'm saying about curating your online presence, I'm not saying that you cannot have a personal social media platform. However, I am saying to take into account that these profiles are not private and that anyone and everyone can see what you post, including potential advisors or potential employers. We live in a digital world and nothing is truly private, even if your profiles are set to private. Treat everything that you post as if anybody can see it. Some companies do have programs that can allow individuals to see private profiles. And also, even if you have your profile set to private right now, anybody can screenshot items that are on your profile and potentially share them. So just really treat everything that you post as if anybody can see it. And this is extremely important to know, over this past year, there's been a lot that has happened in the world. And, a lot of people are really quick to post or share things on social media. And, just make sure you take a step back and really think about what you're posting before you do it, because it is, permanently out there. Even if you do delete it, there are ways to always find everything that you posted. However, I don't want to scare you all. With that being said, not everybody is a hacking spy and trying to look at your private profiles, even if they're set to private. So some tips to help your personal profile stay personal would be, setting your account to private. It's not fail safe, but it's a good step to take. A lot of companies do not have that, software to kind of, hack in and see a private profile. And if they come up and they see that your account's, private, they won't move beyond that. Ensure that you do not post on your personal profile anything that may negatively reflect on your character, such as drinking, drugs, illegal or underage activities. We should never be doing that in general, posting that on social media, because you can get in trouble legally. But especially you don't want potential employers seeing that as well. So just be very cautious about what you're posting and making sure it doesn't negatively affect your character at all. You could also use a nickname or your first and middle name instead of your full legal name on personal social media accounts, because that's what people tend to Google. So for me, my middle name's Lynn, so I could just put Jessica Lynn as my Facebook name if I wanted to, and then if individuals Googled me for background checks and did social media checks, they'd be doing my full legal name, Jessica Moment. So it's less likely to come up that way. So your goal is to ensure that when people Google you, the things you want them to see are first, and things like your personal profiles are lower down the list, or other things, not everybody's had perfect lives. There might just be something out there on the internet that you don't want people to see. And this whole idea is about, ensuring that what you want them to see is first and what you don't want them to see is farther down the list. If the first things people see are a professional website, a LinkedIn, etc., they're less likely to keep diving down that Google list and go to like the second page. They're never going to go to the second page unless you give them a reason to go to the second page. So some good examples of social media to use for your professional profiles would be Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, but there's plenty of other ones out there as well, as I'm sure. And when you're thinking about what social media platform to use for your professional profile, it's important to really think about what your goals are for that profile and how it may help you, as well as the amount of time that you want and effort that you want to put into that platform. So, things like TikTok and YouTube that involve making videos, those involve a lot more work than, say, Twitter or Instagram, because you have to go through filming a video, editing the video, posting the video. So that's a lot of work, and you just really got to think about if that's the platform to best portray what you're trying to do. Are you looking to showcase your artwork, your writing, your coding skills, fieldwork research, science communication, videography skills? Just really sit down and think about why it is that you want to create these profiles. And you also might not feel like your field or career track has anything to showcase, but I'm sure there's something that will help showcase your skills and help grow your network. And, if you still feel that way after this presentation, that you just do not know what you could do, please get in contact with me, and I'm sure we'll figure out something so you can help network yourself online. Also, before we get into how and what to put on those profiles, it's important to note that the goal of making a professional social media account is not to be an influencer and have thousands of followers and get thousands of likes. The goal is to build content, to showcase your skills, and to build a professional network. While growing your network does require you to gain followers, you do not need thousands of followers to have a solid network and to make this work for you professionally. And also remember that this is not meant to be a full-time job. You only put into these accounts where you're able to put into them with your other responsibilities as well. People who are influencers and have, all these followers, that's what they do all day long. And, we're not trying to do that. We're trying to be professionals and use this to, get us our next great career or get into grad school. So please, don't get bogged down thinking that if you only have a couple hundred followers and you don't really, necessarily get hundreds of likes. If you do, that's good for you. But, just don't focus on that and make you feel like you're failing making this professional presence if you are unable to get that many. So since I'm in the wildlife research field, the examples that I will showcase will affect what my personal goals were. Just because, I'm sharing what personally happened with me. However, as I said, these tactics can be tailored to different fields. So I utilize both Instagram and Twitter for my professional social media accounts, and I will go over how I use Twitter first. I use both of these platforms to highlight different skill sets that I have and I want individuals to see. However, you can treat multiple accounts in the same way if that's what you would like to do. Like I said, it's not a one size fits all, whatever you feel is best. If it's easier for you to kind of communicate the same information across different platforms, then that's what you can do. So for Twitter, it's really important to post about what you know and what you personally are experiencing. So for me, what it looked like, over a lot of 2020 was, I was looking for a job. So I shared my tips and tricks for job applications, as well as information about side projects I was working on at that time. However, now that I have a new position, my content will transfer to what my current research is. If I stuck with what my content was then, it would look very odd if my new boss were to look at my profile and see that all I was sharing was about how to find a job and, how do I apply for a job when they would, they just hired me. They would be like, is she leaving? So my content's not going to transfer to what my current research is and what I'm doing. I do not post about research that I am not versed in, as there's other experts out there in the field and on social media, and I will let that be their place. I do not post about COVID-19 research and act like I'm an immunologist, because I'm not an immunologist. And I want to make sure that the information that I'm putting out there, that I can fully back up any information I'm stating, because I'm an expert on that subject. So just really make sure that you post about what you are experiencing and what you know about. And also keeping kind of a general theme and consistency with what you post lets people know what to expect from your profile when they visit it. So Twitter is also a really great place for conversations, and that's really one of the most beneficial aspects of Twitter. So when I was looking for a job, I found workshops, I found job postings I never knew about, I found information, and now in my new job right now, I find stats help all the time with coding information I'm doing. I find suggestions for field gear, really, you can just find anything, any suggestions and open communication with anybody across the entire world. And I found such useful information that I would have never found anywhere else, or had opportunities that I wouldn't have had anywhere else because of my time on Twitter. And part of having good conversations is ensuring that you find relevant hashtags to what your field or career choice is. And how you would do this is, Google's your friend. You really could just sit down and Google like hashtags, like for me again personally, like hashtags for wildlife biologists, hashtags for ecologists or statisticians, and you'll come up with various popular hashtags that are used, as well as different accounts that are used that you can highlight your searches as well. Another way to do this is just to find somebody on Twitter who has, they post something, they have a profile similar to what you would like to have. They're interested in a field or a topic that's similar to what you're interested in, and just kind of take a look at like what kind of accounts they're following, what hashtags they're using, how are they engaging, and really just learn in that way. And that's really how I was able to figure out and piece together how to be able to get my tweets seen by more people by engaging with relevant hashtags that people in my industry use. So for my Instagram, I highlight my photography from various fieldwork that I have done, and I couple that with science communication, which is a field that I am passionate about. So in previous positions, I had sprinklings of science communication, but I wanted to highlight that as my interest as a topic and show that I was capable of doing this. So I didn't want to just walk the walk. I wanted to talk the talk, and I didn't want to just tell potential employers I was interested in science communication. I wanted to have some sort of work to back it up. So even if you're somebody, there's something that you're really interested in, but you haven't been able to get formal experience in that yet, find a way to get it. I didn't have a job at this time, but I was able to kind of, figure out a way to leverage myself and get experience in science communication. Also through Twitter, I was able to reach out to individuals who had science blogs, and they were looking for different writers, and I was able to reach out to them and write pieces for them as well, to further enhance my science communication background. So I did all of this while I didn't technically have a job, but I was able to put down now that I have experience in science communication. So I was able to make that experience for myself instead of just waiting for a job opportunity to give it to me. So just because you don't have a position at this time doesn't mean there isn't a way for you to find a way to express your interest in that specific field or anything like that. So you can take the bull by its horns yourself and figure it out. So the way I did this was, I coupled my photography that I had from various fieldwork I had done, and I would, research interesting facts on animals that were present in those photos. And I created these photo templates that I then used for highlights at the top of my page and also on my feed. And in these highlights, I highlight different chapters of my research that I've done. So I have various areas that I've done research in. I also have summaries of publications that I've done where I do a really simple, overview at the bottom of that, and I link them so they can look at my research more if they would like to. So in this way, I'm able to furthermore back up my experiences that I have listed on formal documents such as my CV, my resume, or my LinkedIn. So in addition to having it on formal documents, there's photographic and video evidence that I have these experiences as well to help bolster my professional, appearance when potential employees are doing background checks on me or they come across my profiles. It's not just like, hey, look, she said she's, done snake handling. There's actual photos or videos of me doing snake handling. So, it's able to further back up those experiences I've stated that I've had. And I would like to, take a second to reiterate again that do not put more into these profiles than you're able to do while juggling your other responsibilities. If you were to look at my Instagram now at this time, you will see I have not posted in there since October. And this is because it does take me a lot of time to sit down and, research the species that is in the photo, find, credible resources for the information I'm going to do, be able to format and create those highlights, and just really take my time, because that's something that's really important on Instagram, is that visuals are key here. You want to ensure that the photos you post are clear, they have good composure, they're centered, etc., because that's how you draw people in on Instagram. Sorry, is through the photo. So like the photo is the most key item that you need to have when you're looking at Instagram, and you don't want to be posting like a blurry photo, an off-center photo, because if people are not drawn in by the photo themselves, they're not going to then, look at your picture and be able to read your caption and find out more about whatever it is that you're trying to convey to the public. So then beyond the photo itself, once they're drawn in by the photo, you want to make sure you have thoughtful captions that concisely convey the message that you're trying to portray. So for me, that's the fun facts that I have about animals. But yeah, so you're looking to, bring them in on the photo itself and then have a thoughtful caption to convey with information that you're trying to convey to the public. So this is very similar then to how you reach out to other individuals. You need to find relevant hashtags for the field of choice that you are in. And you can do this in a very similar way than you would on Twitter. You can Google relevant hashtags for Instagram for whatever field it is you're looking for, or you can find individuals who are doing similar things to what you want to do and see what types of hashtags they're using and what works for them. And just a little helpful tip here, when you're all trying to make things look, very beautiful on Instagram, because visuals are key here, Instagram itself does not allow you to format captions very well. And, people can get overwhelmed when they see just one big block of text. So this app right here, well, it's actually a web page, but there is an app as well, allows you to format Instagram captions in a way that Instagram will not let you. So it's very useful. You're able to, bold, italicize items, make big spaces, things like that, just to further make the visuals of your presentation, more intuitive. And remember that all these profiles are just ways to highlight your skills and shape your story, as well as ways to potentially showcase skills that you may not have had formal experience in. If somebody who has the background music going with me, they could potentially mute themselves.
I think if you can mute. There we go. Okay.
I do appreciate the kind of calming music you have happening in the background. So that's a note that I'll just take a sip of water right now. So I guess before I move on, anybody have any questions for social media?
I was just going to ask if we could get any questions here. Let me check our chat and see. Let's see. What is the app called? Somebody asked, what is the app called?
So the app itself, I don't remember the name, but if you just put in this into your web browser, it'll come up, appsforlifehosts.com. It comes up with the clean and beautiful line breaks for captions. And then they have they will link you to where you can download the app, but you have to pay for that. But this kind of ugly web page is free. So if you put that in, if you have problems with that, let me know. And I'll try to, send out the formal link to that.
Awesome. Also, I was just thinking as you were going through too, potentially some of the students that are on this call are thinking like, well, how do I literally transition, into, I've been posting socially, but I don't want to make a separate account, kind of like you said, I don't always have to totally separate. So do you have any advice as far as, do you sort of filter it in? I mean, for a little bit, do you keep on posting some social and some professional?
Yeah.
Or?
So I actually don't. So my only truly personal social media I have is my Facebook. Um, I do. I've had my Twitter and I've had my Instagram. I think I made them both probably around 2013-ish. So at that time, the idea was they were going to be professional in some way, but I still did kind of, post a little bit of what I wanted. And on my Instagram, I didn't totally have an idea of what I wanted to post yet. I kind of just like posted random things that I was doing, but I didn't have like, more of the general theme that I do now where I post these science facts with everything. So what I've been doing, at least for like Instagram is when I've been kind of reposting a photo that I might have posted before in a different context, I will go back and I'll delete that. Just so there's not like repetitive information happening. Or if you are really wanting to transition one that used to be solely personal, I would just say take the time to go through and just make sure there's not any content or posts on there that you don't want professional people to see, and make sure you delete it. If you feel like there's too much on there, I would say, just create a new account. But that's kind of my general gist there. But I mean, I still will post, like, if you follow me on Instagram, like my stories and stuff will still have like funny memes or something, but I just still try to keep it, appropriate. I don't post anything like completely heinous or something on there, but I'll still post something that's like, outside of maybe the norm of what my profile page is, kind of just to keep, spirits up, over the past year. I might have like comics or like motivational quotes or something like that. So I'll still have sprinklings of stuff in there. It's just making sure that you remember that, you're trying to have this be a professional page. And obviously it's not going to be quite as professional necessarily as these pages that we're going to get into now as your LinkedIn. So you can still be kind of silly on them. Just remember kind of what your goal is. That would be what I would say.
Good point. Okay, thanks so much.
All right. So now we're going to get down to professional social media platforms. So, these are the platforms that are solely used and made for professional pages to help you build a professional network and display your CVs and resumes on an online platform. So the examples that we're going to go over are LinkedIn, ResearchGate, Academia, and Google Scholar. However, similar to other social media, there are, other platforms out there, especially depending on your career focus. I don't know of every single one out there. I know ones that are relevant to, the fields that I'm in right now. So those are the ones I will go over. And I'm mainly going to focus on LinkedIn as it is the most important universal profile professional social media out there. But I'll briefly go over the others as well. However, I will note now that the other ones are really more for if you're going to be in grad school, if you're somebody in academia or research, or if you're somebody with peer-reviewed papers. However, I still will just touch on them a little bit because I think they're interesting and informative to know about. So LinkedIn. So I know Julie had a networking workshop, in the last week or two. And some of you might have been there. And I believe that my LinkedIn page is sometimes used as an example. So some of this might be, hearing it twice, but it really is important to know if you guys walk away with nothing else and don't make anything else other than a LinkedIn page, I will consider this successful, because a LinkedIn page is extremely important to have, because you need to at least have one professional social media page out there so that when people Google you, there's something, professional for them to come across. So if you make nothing else from today, please make a LinkedIn page if you do not have it. It's very important. So we're kind of just going to go over quickly the components of a LinkedIn page. And I also just want to make sure you guys all know as well, like, please fill out a LinkedIn page as thoroughly as you can. This is the time that you're supposed to be bragging about yourself, because this is like you're trying to get a job, you're trying to get into grad school. So please, put down everything you can. If you won one tiny award, it's not a tiny award. You won an award. Put it down. It's relevant information. So just try to be as thorough as you can when filling out your LinkedIn page, and don't leave, a bunch of it blank. Don't have no profile picture. Just try to make it as thorough as you can. So speaking of pictures, make sure you have a professional headshot or an appropriate photo of you conducting work. It doesn't have to be that somebody professionally did it for you. However, I do know that Northland at times has free headshots available, I believe, through career services. So I would take advantage of that. However, my professional headshot I'm using right now is just a selfie I took of myself after doing some field work one day. Phones have really good cameras on them now, and that's totally fine to use for your profile picture on there. I have in the past also had photos of me, potentially like actually conducting field work. If you do have something like that, still make sure you're just able to see your face really well. And, depending on the type of field work you're doing, that there's not any sort of like, gory aspects to what's happening in the photo. Make sure it's an individual photo of just yourself, not a group photo, just an appropriate photo. But it's really important to make sure you have a photo. I come across numerous sites, numerous profiles when I was looking for technicians and stuff in the past where, they didn't have a photo, they had very little information, and just have a photo. So then you have your headline up there as well, and that's going to come up with whatever, your current role is in your institution, your field. So for many of you, this is going to be, student at Northland College. Then you have your about section. I know a lot of people leave this blank, but once again, I advise you to fill this out the best that you can. And I'm sure that Julie will have, some helpful tips as well if you really feel like you just don't know how to create this section. So this section should be a summary overview of who you are professionally, your professional interests and your experiences, so that people have an overview of who you are without having to dive through your whole profile. If people were to look at my profile and look at things I've done, they'd be able to kind of calculate and figure out, oh, she has, 4 years of experience here, 7 years of experience in this. But that would involve, some work on their end. And I want to make things easy for people who are looking at my profile. So, I have that overview statement at the top. And I also want to note as well, we're talking about making a bunch of different profiles. We're talking about making potentially LinkedIn's, ResearchGate's, Academia's, Google Scholars, websites, Twitters, all this stuff. So that can be a lot to feel like you need to keep up with all of those, keep them all up to date. So, if you would prefer to have brief overviews of your experiences on some profiles and then link people to where they can go to get the really detailed information, feel free to do that. That's kind of what I do on all of my social platforms. Aside from my website, I do a very brief overview of my experiences, similar to what I put on my resume. But on my website, it's similar to what I put on my CV. And if people haven't heard of a CV before, stands for curriculum vitae, and it's something that's very commonly used in the research and science world. So some of you, that will never be, something you have to worry about. But CVs are extremely detailed. Like, for instance, my resume is 2 pages. My CV is about 12. So that's where you put everything and anything that you've ever done. So I'm not going to put that on my LinkedIn here, but I will link people to where they can see more detailed information about me and my experiences. There's also a featured section. I believe I don't have a screenshot of that, but that's where you're able to kind of like pin important links or presentations to your profile that you want people to see. So for me, I've pinned like information to my website, relevant, publications I've recently, published that I want people to be able to quickly see and link to. It could be, if you wrote a blog piece for somebody, you can link that there. Just anything that you want to give people quick access to. Once again, it's kind of just like making things easier for everybody. Like, you might have that information, like I have information on my publications farther down in my LinkedIn, but that's something I'm proud of and I want people to see like right away. So I give them the opportunity to click on it right away. So then we have our experience sections. Like I said, I do this similar to what I would have on my resume, and I do, styles up to everybody, but I do suggest and prefer having kind of a paragraph form versus people who have just bullet points. I believe it looks a little bit more professional and just allows you to give a little bit more detail into what you are doing. Try to have descriptions for all jobs you have done. My most recent job that I'm in right now, I do not have a description up there yet, and that's just because it's so new. I'm still trying to like figure out everything that is going to be the description of my job before I put something down there. But make sure you try to put a description down for everything that you've done thus far. Your education, In this area, put a summary of education experiences, which can also include classes, GPA, and your thesis or a capstone, whatever you have. Once again, this is all about making it easy for the reader because, a lot of times like recruiters or people doing background checks, they're just going to look at stuff really, really quick. They want to be able to like really quickly pick out information that you said on your resume or anything and be like, bam, 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 like this is what, what they said. I can find it here as well. So there is an area farther down in LinkedIn where you can list all of your classes. However, it's a bit clunky and not very intuitive. So I like to put a summary of my relevant classes underneath my education right here, along with like, my thesis or relevant projects, just to make it easier on the reader when they are looking at it. You also could put down any sort of relevant license or certifications that you have. Volunteer experience. Volunteer experience can look just as good as paid experience when you are in college. So I know some people don't feel like it's necessarily important enough to put down, but please put down your volunteer experience. It looks just as good. People just care about the experience that you have, not necessarily that it was a formal paid internship or something. So this is important to think about as well. If, for some reason during the summertime, you're unable to get a paid internship in the field that you want, but you're able to find maybe like a part-time job at a coffee shop or something like that, you can still look into volunteer experiences to fill the other hours in your day or week to still gain experience there. It's still just as relevant as having an internship, and make sure you put down your volunteer experience on your LinkedIn. LinkedIn also has a skills and endorsement area where you're able to list what you feel your top skills are. People can then, that you're friends with a network, endorse you. I feel like that's kind of tapered off in recent years. I don't know if that was just because, I haven't been in college, and when I was in college, it was very popular. And maybe, for all you, like your friends are very eager to help out friends. So you get endorsements that way. However, it's still important to be able to list what your skills are, because that's something that you would have on your resume or CV as well anyways. LinkedIn also has a great feature that can allow you to take assessment quizzes. So some of the skills here where I have, check boxes with a clipboard, I actually took assessment quizzes through LinkedIn. And it does take a while, depending on what it is. Like they take about, 30 minutes to an hour, I believe. But it's just another way to back up that, I say I have experience with ArcGIS or Excel products, and I took a test that actually affirms, yes, I do have skills in that. So that's something you can do as well to back up your skills. And then accomplishments. Once again, this is a place that you should be bragging about everything that you've done. So no matter how small the award is, even if it's just I still have Dean's List on here, put that down. This is like when you should be putting down everything, brag about yourself, be proud of yourself for all the things that you've done, and try to fill this out to the best of your ability. Aside from building a digital CV or a resume, LinkedIn also has recruiters. So if you're looking for a job, you can let LinkedIn know that you're open to finding a job or hiring if you're somebody who's trying to get people jobs. As well as you can create they have a frame for photos now as well that says like hashtag open to work, and it's like a green frame to really make it easy for people to know that you're looking for a job. But you're able to put that you're open to recruiters, and I do know a number of people who have been reached out to by recruiters on LinkedIn. Recruiters depend a little bit more about what field you're in. For me, wildlife isn't something that you're normally recruited for. I did have myself open to recruiting though, and I did have some offers for more things related to the GIS skills that I have. But I do know a number of people who have been reached out to recruiters on here, so it is a useful thing to do. There's also job boards and that are on LinkedIn as well. And you can put in some of your interests on there, and they'll send you, daily or weekly updates for different jobs. You can apply for jobs directly through LinkedIn. Once again, the type of jobs that LinkedIn provides, might not be best for all career fields. For wildlife and natural resources, again, they kind of always sent me stuff for like pharmaceutical jobs, which isn't, what my field is. But I found it still very beneficial for network on the other end of things, but maybe not necessarily for me looking at the job board. You can also create posts and engage with other people on here, similar to Facebook or any other social media platform as well. Just remember to keep in mind that this is a professional platform, so keep it to professional experiences or professional related posts. And there's also a very large Northland alumni network on LinkedIn as well. There's 2,473 plus alumni as part of that group. So I really encourage you all to interact with that group, look through the alumni that are on there. You know, with over 2,000 people, I'm sure there's somebody in there that's doing something similar to what you want to be doing. And don't be afraid to reach out to them, engage with them, and help build your network and network with them that way. So then we also have some of those other platforms I briefly discussed, which were ResearchGate, Academia, and Google Scholar. So these are very focused on if you're in grad school, if you're somebody in research, or if you had peer-reviewed papers. All of them do require .edu email addresses, which makes them a little limiting to who can have them. For ResearchGate and Academia, it's similar to where you can build a profile like LinkedIn, but you also can upload any sort of research peer-reviewed papers that you've had. But you have to be careful about copyright there. If it was a paper that wasn't open access, you cannot upload it there because you can get in trouble with copyright. You're also given suggestions of other researchers to follow based on your research interests, as well as other papers. And you also can get analytics on who reads your papers, how long, if they cite it, things like that. So a very research-based platform, very similar with Google Scholar. Google Scholar hopefully sounds familiar to most of you if you've written a research paper. If not, please familiarize yourself with it. It's very, very useful for finding peer-reviewed sources that are legitimate sources that you can use in your papers versus, using a web page, Wikipedia, something like that. But if you have used Google Scholar, you might have noticed that some authors have their names underlined. And if an author has their name underlined, that means they have a Google Scholar profile. And if you were to click on that, it would take you to their profile, which is basically it compiles all of the papers that they've written and published into one area, which can be very useful when you're researching researching a certain topic, because if you find an author and you really like the paper that they wrote and you want to see if they've written anything else on that topic, all their papers are right there, and also will list anybody that their co-authors on their paper, so you can find those individuals. And also takes you to their links to their websites as well as their research interests. So these ones are all really heavily if you're in the research field or in grad school, something like that, but worth going over, just showing you that there are other professional social media accounts aside from LinkedIn. And does anybody have any questions before we get into personal websites?
I have a question. This is Julie again. So Jess, can you talk just a little bit about, like, your online presence is so professional. What did it look like this when you were a student? Like, were you able, what did it look like when you had a job, at the grocery store, or, like, we're trying to build up?
Yeah, so I didn't go really hard into branding myself until COVID, and I lost my job and everything, because what could I do to try to market myself during the crazy time in the world? And this is what I chose to do, and it was very beneficial. When I was at Northland, I had a LinkedIn page. It was not as put together as my LinkedIn page now. I'm kind of drawing from my own faults back then of maybe not putting down descriptions of the jobs that I did and things like that. I did create my Twitter and my Instagram originally when I started some internships at the Field Museum, because I wanted to share some of the content that I was doing there. But once again, it really, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it at that time. I was just like, oh, I'm doing something, cool. I want to show people that I'm doing it. Once I was into grad school, and I would say it was once I was almost done with grad school, did I make some of these other professional accounts like the ResearchGate and Academia, because then I did have information to put on there. So it's kind of slowly built up as I've gotten farther in my career. Having a personal website was something I was wanting to do for a while when I was in grad school, but it just wasn't something that at the time when I had a job that I could do, because it is a large undertaking, which I'll get into here shortly. So I've kind of just been building on things as I've gotten farther in my career. And I think something that also really helped me is when I was in grad school, I had about 10 technicians over the course of my degree. And I had to, every single time I hired a technician, I interviewed about 50 people. So I was looking at, so, people do look at your social media. I was one of the people looking at people who I was hiring. But just seeing kind of the mistakes I would see over and over again and what would make people stick out to me more, and then kind of just curating that into my own presence was kind of how I've gotten here.
That's such good advice. What were like the top mistakes that you saw over and over?
So as far as applying for a job, please format your application in the way that they tell you to. If they tell you to apply for something and have it be a PDF and have it be like your last name, first name, that job, please do not send in a Word document that says job app 74. Something like that. Or, one I would come across, specifically looking at social media, like it was like LinkedIn's, it was either having no professional presence at all. So that's kind of a red flag in itself when you try to look up somebody and you find nothing, because nothing's not always good either. Because you want to be able to have to get some idea of what this individual is when you can't necessarily meet them in person. And then I also just say, like, once again, if you do have a LinkedIn, utilize that LinkedIn. Just don't just make it and have it sit there but not have any information in it, because that's basically the same as not having a LinkedIn if you're not going to utilize the LinkedIn. So that'd be kind of some of my points.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, personal websites. So some examples of website builders are Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, and then DIY, doing it yourself. So building a website from scratch if you have coding experience. So many of you may not be at the stage in your life yet where a personal website is necessary or needed. And you might not be in a career field where it's necessarily beneficial. I will say, it can have a place everywhere, but, this is a large undertaking. And if you're still a freshman or a sophomore, I would not do this at this time unless you feel like you're potentially an artist or something like that, and you want to look to sell your art or something like that. However, if you're a junior or senior and you're looking to apply for grad school or get into the workforce, this might be something that you want to consider. It is a very large time commitment, and they're not necessarily free, even if you use a builder that says it has a free version, and I'll get into that more shortly. I would create a website if you are somebody in the arts and have a portfolio, or a writer, or looking to get into grad school or interested in a science career aimed in research. But it really could fit a lot of people, even if you just use it as another digital resume or CV. Because remember, it's all about branding yourself and ensuring that when future employers search you, you see what they want. You see what you want them to see. Sorry, I got my words tripped up there. So having a website is just another way to ensure that you're in control of your Google results, and just gives them another good thing to look at about you, even if it's just, a fancy looking resume. So Wix is what I personally use. It is user-friendly. It has a lot of themes that you can choose from. It's very easy to customize it. It does have a free version. However, the free versions of any of these, they will have ads on them. You cannot customize the domains. So for a lot of these, it'll be like your username .wixsite some crazy number .com. So like your URL is like this long when you really want it to be like that long. So it doesn't look very neat and clean, especially if you want to put that on your resume to share with individuals. And then one of the other really big things is that on the free versions, you're not in control of the SEO, which that is how you improve Google search results. So actually, if you use the free version of these, your website is not even Googleable. So if they do Google you, your website's not going to show up. So, this is kind of a side tangent into the both time investment and money investment of a website. If you're going to invest the time in a website, I do suggest that if you have the ability, you invest the money into it. And this is why I also say, really think about if a website would benefit you and if it's at the time in your life when you should make one. Because using any of these builders can get a little expensive, depending on what kind of subscription package you go with. But if you're going to put all the time into it and you want to look professional, it kind of defeats the purpose. If you put all this time in, it's riddled with ads, it has a messy URL, and you can't even search it. So I would suggest having a paid subscription if you're able to, but I understand that's not something everybody can do. So that's my end rant on free versions of the websites. So Squarespace has some beautiful templates available as well. It's very popular for people who use it as portfolios for artists. There's not a free option here. It's a minimum of $12 per month. WordPress, is another very popular, kind of comparable to Wix. It does have good themes. It requires a little bit more work on customization. It's not as user-friendly as Wix is. You have less control over customization as well. And it has that free version as well, but it kind of runs into the same errors as having ads, not being Googleable, and not being able to have a pretty domain. The cheapest option by far is doing it yourself, because all you have to do is pay for a domain there, and domains are about $10 or less a year. But you need to be a bit tech savvy there. GitHub is a coding resource kind of platform that has a lot of useful information and about how and tutorials on how to build a website. This is originally the way I wanted to go. I wanted to build my own website, but at the time I kind of I was looking for a job already, and I just didn't have the time to be able to sit down and figure out the coding I needed to know to then build a website. So hopefully that's something I might be able to do down the road, but like I said, this takes a lot of time. But you will have the most control here, and you'll be able to do anything you want because you're building it yourself, and it's the cheapest option. So there is a way to have a cheap website. It just takes a lot of more work up front and a bit of a learning curve depending on how tech savvy you are. So for personal websites, what you should include is a lot of similar stuff to what you would have in your LinkedIn already. So you want to have a professional recent photo, a short bio, education, professional experiences, awards, certifications, contact information, as well as some optional info, which would be a PDF of a full resume or CV that people can download, publications and presentations if you have them, portfolios if you're somebody who has some art to show individuals, a blog if you're a writer, or if you just want to have some additional information that you're sharing with individuals, and then links to appropriate social media. So I will briefly show you all my personal website, but you're welcome to look at it more in your own time as well. So I already have it loaded over here. It looks a little different because I changed my picture since then. But so it's very kind of clean, simple, kind of goes with my outdoorsy, I'm a wildlife person theme. So just everything you're doing is really think about your intention behind what you're creating, and even going a little bit farther into branding yourself, kind of in real life. My CV and my resume and my cover letters all kind of match the theme of my website. You don't necessarily have to do that. I just am very type A. So I have similar color and font on all of my documents that I use to apply to positions. So I have who I am as a person, really quick here, but then I go into my research interests here. I have those highlights. Again, my educational experiences, my skills, I break them up by a topic so that people have some sort of general idea when they're looking at my skills. And then I have links to different social media they can look at, and then they can download my CV if they would like. If you do put your CV or resume on a website, take your phone number off, just so you don't get more random calls than we already get from telemarketers and things like that. However, I still have my my email because they need to contact me some way. So if y'all also have questions about what a CV looks like, you can look at my CV. You'll see that it's extremely long and detailed compared to what a resume is, but that's once again another workshop in itself, knowing how to create a CV. But if you are interested, you can look at my website to look at an example. So I have those available. I have them available in a couple locations. I have my experiences here. Once again, I'm not going to spend too much time, going over it, but you guys are welcome to look at it again later and ask me any questions that you might have. I have my awards and my professional development. So, right now I'm using my CV a lot for, my resume as a kind of just a digital CV. But I'm really hoping to in the future, when I have more time, to kind of, potentially add on a blog, add on some useful, information, potentially something like this workshop I'm giving right now, to be able to kind of give back a little bit more. But like I said, only put into this stuff what you can put into it while juggling other things. And I have a lot of other things going on right now, so I really can't do all those other things that I want to do. So just, briefly going through all the different items I have on here. Then I also have my photography portfolio here for different, times in my life. And then people can click and see different photos. And I usually, name what species it is you're looking at. And then I have a contact page as well. So that's kind of briefly what I have. But, your website can be whatever you want it to be. You can have blogs, you can have a feed to your social media, you can have a link to shops so people can buy things from you. Really, the sky is the limit with a personal website. And then I guess I'll take any questions on personal websites before we get to the last section, which is the networking on social media.
I'm just kind of watching the chat and waiting to see if some questions come in. While we're waiting, see if anybody has questions on specifically the personal website. One of the things, Jess, that I'm curious to get your feedback on, usually when I kind of explain CV versus resume, like in the most basic form, CV is kind of like a master resume. You can think of it that way. So when you were a student and building up your experience, like maybe you didn't have publications yet, you may not have even had, research experience yet. So when did you officially transfer, or move over to the CV?
So I had a CV when I was an undergrad, because I did already have, I did a lot of stuff when I was at Northland in undergrad, kind of probably too much stuff. I was very spread thin there. So I had a lot of experiences already that, for me, a lot of times with resumes already took up more space than what a typical resume would have allowed at that time, trying to keep it to the one page. And I knew the kind of career track I was wanting to go into, and I was applying to things like REUs, research, experience undergrad internships. So, having a CV for those was appropriate. And then also, when I went after undergrad and I was having a gap year before I went to grad school, I was working in a research field again. So a CV was appropriate there, as well as applying to grad school. So I've honestly utilized a CV much more than I've utilized a resume in my field. And it's much more commonly used, though I do still have a resume on hand that I continually update, because I will say, for advice to individuals as well, if a job posting or something does ask you for a CV a resume, sorry, and it doesn't say resume or CV, do not send them a CV because, they're not going to look at it. CVs are so much longer than resumes, and they just want a quick overview. And that's one of those things that if they ask for a resume and you send them a CV, that might already kick you out of the running there, just because you sent them not what they asked for.
That's a good point. So you do have a question. Is a CV helpful for any field or mostly just science careers?
Mostly just sciences has been my understanding. I could be wrong there, but when I've talked to even my fiance is an engineer, and he had no idea what a CV was when I tried explaining to what my CV was. And I know that my friends in public relations and things like that and marketing do not use CVs as well. So my understanding thus far, and when I've seen postings for things, is that it's if you're in the sciences and research. Is where CV comes into play.
I'm going to add on to that: sciences, research, and academia.
Yes.
So if you're looking to be a professor, you will definitely develop a CV So, and then, also overseas, a CV is standard, like a resume is here. So if you're looking to live in Europe, you'll need a CV.
If you feel like you have more to say as well than your resume lets you, feel free to expand on those experiences then, in your LinkedIn if you don't have a personal website, or on your personal website. Because, having a CV gives me the freedom to really expand then on what my experiences are. And you may have a lot more to say about what you did at a job rather than like the couple sentences a resume lets you say. So feel free to let people know, for more detailed information, see my LinkedIn. For more detailed information, see my website. So that you're able to have that opportunity to, really further detail and describe your experiences.
That's a great point. Okay.
I actually do put that at the bottom of my resume as well. I put, for more detailed information, please see my website, so that they can, see more of that information if they choose to. But all right, we're almost at the end here. So, if you have any other questions, we'll be getting to them soon. So, now that we've talked about making a professional social media platform and how you can use that to build your network, I just want to go back and briefly discuss, how important these sites are for networking, especially during COVID. So, once again, some of you might have took part in the networking workshops that, Julie had recently, and that's really awesome that you are learning about the importance of networking, because networking is a crucial skill to learn. And, you're probably going to keep hearing that over and over again, from Julie or other people that you're, discussing looking for jobs with. And why is it such a crucial skill to learn? I'm going to give you a crazy statistic, because 70 to 80% of jobs are not listed on job sites, but are filled through networking alone. 70 to 80%. That is most jobs. That is an insane statistic. Yet most people still spend the majority of their time looking for jobs just on job boards, and completely ignoring how important networking is in this whole side of job searching. This stat was shared by NPR in 2011, yet it's still been continually used over and over again in recent years to discuss how important networking is, but how people still are not utilizing it. And, all this presentation stems from my personal experiences and having had success with branding myself online. And I'm not just spewing information at you guys that I don't personally believe in or haven't experienced. I got my job right now that I have through networking on Twitter. I knew that my contract was going to be ending at my old job, so I posted on Twitter that I was looking for new opportunities, and my network shared that out to their networks that I was looking. And this all goes back to the fact that you do not need to be an influencer with thousands of followers in order to make this work. This post might have only, at that time been liked 24 times, shared 12 times, and commented on 4 times. However, that result of people sharing it from their network, my network to their network to their network, resulted in this tweet being seen 7,335 times. Imagine the exposure you could get if your resume was seen over 7,000 times. And that's only with me. Right now I have, a little under 600 followers, and it's taken me, a few months to get there, because once again, only put in what you can, do while juggling your other tasks and living your life. So my boss reached out to me, my current boss reached out to me through my website from this Twitter posting, and thought I would be a good fit for this position, and asked me if I wanted to talk more about it. Had he not reached out, I would have never known that this job existed. I did not come across it on any job boards, nor would I have. And beyond this job right now as well, I received about 10 other responses about jobs within the first 48 hours that I had this posted. And those are all jobs that, I was scouring every single job board I can think of. These were jobs I still never came across, even with all my daily updates that I would get to my email about jobs being posted, even with me looking at 10 different, job boards every single day. I never saw any of these jobs that people were sending me through Twitter. And also, just going back to the importance of networking in general, I got my job as a mammals research assistant at the Field Museum before I went to grad school through networking as well. Not networking through social media, but I just reached out to individuals that were working in the field museum that were doing research I was interested in. I provided them with my CV. I let them know I was taking a gap year and what my research interests were, and let them, ask them if they had any funding available to allow me to help them with their research, and I was able to get a job that way. That was not a job that was posted, nor was it intended to be posted. My supervisor at that time just happened to have extra grant funding lay around and was like, you know what, I actually do need a research assistant with this project I'm working on. So that's another advice as well. Don't be afraid to reach out to organizations or people that are doing something that you're interested in, even if it's not formally posted that they're looking for anybody, because you never know if they might be looking for somebody and they just haven't posted it yet, or they might be, have some extra money laying around and maybe you're the perfect person and they can create a job position for you. So far in my seemingly short work experience, I've gotten 2 jobs off of networking alone and not actually like just going through the whole formal process of looking through job boards and applying to job after job after job. I still do that as well, but it just shows you that 70 to 80% of jobs are not even posted, are just purely, found through networking. And, I'm still, looking at Twitter and science Twitter every day. I come across positions being posted that I never saw anywhere else because I do kind of still keep an eye on other things to share with my friends. And there's just amazing opportunities that can be posted on there that you won't necessarily find anywhere else. So in summary, be cautious of how you present yourself online. Professional social media pages can help you build your network and support your professional experiences. You do not need to have a large network in order for this to help you professionally. So remember, you're not trying to be an influencer. You don't need to have thousands of followers. You can make this work solidly, with a small group of people. Online networking is critical, especially during COVID-19. Branding yourself online applies to all career tracks and shape the story you want employers to see. And, this sounds like a lot of work, and it can be, to get all these profiles up and running, but I promise you it does work. If you were to Google me, you do not even come across any of my personal social media pages. All it is all the professional accounts that I have made, and that is exactly what I want people to see when they Google me, and that's exactly what you see because of all these steps I've made to make these different sorts of professional profiles. So, it really, if you do take these steps, it's very easy to be able to control your Google results and be able to show people the professional that you want them to see. Thank you. If you have any questions, let me know.
All right. Well, I'm hoping that we'll have some questions coming through again. If you prefer not to be recorded, you can enter questions through the chat. But if you're comfortable being recorded, feel free to turn on your camera and your mic and ask a question. Step outside of your comfort zone, ask a question, make yourself memorable.
I'm a very relaxed person. Like, this is not a large group of people. Please feel free to ask a question.
We do. So there's just a comment, thank you, Jessica. I learned from you, which is so nice. And I did, I had put a comment in there asking attendees, I'm just curious, have you Googled yourself, attendees who are here? If you have, like my comment. We have 1 like so far.
They're all doing it right now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I actually can see you guys, because right now I am unable to see everybody.
So students, another thing I think that's so important, like Jessica's online presence is amazing, but I want you to understand, like, it didn't start that way. Like, it has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So, what are your questions? Like, what pops out to you? Or maybe just a comment, like, what do you think you're going to take away from this? Let's see. So, Will, for someone with almost no online presence beyond personal social media, what would be a good first step? Thank you for asking the question, Will.
Yeah. So, I would suggest that, you make some, well, once again, it goes back to figuring out what your goals are. What are your career goals? What do you feel like that platform could help you accomplish? Is it, that you want to make videos? So then you would have to be going like the TikTok or the YouTube route. Is it that, you know, you have more just like conversations that you want to start, or you have photography or something that you would want to go the Twitter or the Instagram route? So really just sit down and think about, you know, like, how do you think that this platform can help you? What are you exactly going to showcase? What platform can help you showcase that? And then, you know, create that that account. And then, like I said, you just need to find individuals that are doing something similar to you. And that really is just simple Google searches or looking at hashtags, you know, like for somebody who's like into statistics. Like I do a lot of coding in R as well. There is like, if you look at like our studio or our stats, you click on that, you can find everybody who posts about that, like the top followers there. You'll find like the, you know, the big names. And then you can see like what hashtags they're using, who are they using. I think it's also important to note too, places like Twitter kind of already have these built-in days to help people with networking. So a lot of people on science Twitter or things like that will do Monday Mingle, where they'll start like these huge threads on certain accounts where people can, you know, introduce themselves and they'll share certain things about themselves. There's, you know, Follow Friday that people will post on a lot of different accounts so people can share their accounts and what they're working on, like different ways to help people build their profiles. So there, a lot of these places already exist. So they're basically, their sole purpose is to help people build their networks. And I'd be happy to discuss that more with people as well. And as far as also like just going the professional platform route, make a LinkedIn. If you make nothing else, just get, you know, the ball rolling with making a LinkedIn. Because like I said, you know, Googling somebody and, you know, also finding nothing is kind of a red flag, because, you know, you want to be able to find something on somebody. Like, you want to be able to gauge something about that individual beyond the piece of paper that they're giving you, especially when you can't meet people face to face at this time. So really the simplest and the easiest thing that you can do is make a LinkedIn and just try to make that as filled out as you possibly can at this time. But, and like I will say, you know, building these platforms, it does take some time. So don't be like sad if, you know, a month or two's gone by and you don't even have 100 followers yet or anything like that, because it takes time to build it. And you're not just going out there trying to get followers, because, you know, you don't need to have a follower who like just posts pictures of their dog if that's like, you know, this is trying to be your professional platform, you know, like, you know, you're trying to find people to connect with that will help you professionally. So like you want to make sure like the people that you're reaching out to and you're trying to engage with are people that can help you professionally and help you network, not just finding followers for the sake of followers. And like I said, I have less than 600 followers. You know, I haven't really been trying that hard to get followers, but like I had so much success with the things I've put out already, you know, with getting over 7,000 views on my tweet for looking for a job. So like you don't need to have a ton of people to make this work, but it is a slow growing process, which is why I suggest a lot of you guys, and why we held this now, start making these if you're looking for jobs, you know, come spring, come summer, and you give it time to grow and give yourself time to make these, because they are a time investment.
Such a good piece of advice. If you are in that position, like you are feeling like, I think I'm ready to like commit some time and get started on something, maybe you'd be interested in the Networking 101 workshop that I'll be offering next week. Obviously, Jess's information is just like so amazing. The networking workshop that I do is much lower level. We go through kind of like what LinkedIn looks like, each section with like different examples and stuff like that. So, you know, utilize the resources that are there for you too. And Jessica is one of those. And Jackie is one of those. And I'm one of those.
I really enjoy helping people and like mentoring and things like that. That's part of why I'm on the alumni board and why I do these types of things. So really, you're not bothering me. If you reach out to me, you know, it might take me a couple days to get back to you because I have other things, but like I try to be a non-threatening, you know, open person. I mean, it did graduate almost 6 years ago now, which is crazy to think, but I'm not like fully disconnected from you all yet. I still had most of the professors that you have now. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to me. And like I said, I got 2 jobs just from reaching out to people. So like, you never know what can happen when you just reach out to somebody that is doing something that you're interested in or you feel like you can benefit from. Yeah.
Definitely. Amazing. Thank you again for asking that question. Other questions, comments? Was there anything in tonight's presentation that you were like totally flabbergasted by? I mean, I've heard that percentage about the amount of jobs that aren't posted, but it's always kind of like amazing to rehear. So
I will also say too, like while people are thinking about their questions, that networking is also very important because, once again, I can speak to the wildlife natural resources field. It's surprisingly small. I cannot tell you the amount of jobs I've applied for or people I've met and talked with who know somebody else that I worked with already or went to school with or whatever. And that's why I kind of got up and getting an interview and things like that. Like my current boss now is worked with and is friends with somebody who was on my committee when I was in grad school and has done research with them. And like pretty much all the other jobs I applied for, they're like, oh, you work for blah, blah, blah. I know him. Like, it's an extremely small world. So the better you get at networking, then that kind of just helps you out because if they see like, oh, Jessica worked with blah, 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 like I know them. They're like, I value them. I value their opinion. So if they had her as an employee, like she must be a good employee. You might get, put up in the ranks a little bit quicker. So networking is really important and some fields can be a lot smaller than they feel like they are. And a lot of people know a lot of people. So, that's just a word of advice as well.
awesome. Well, I don't know. I think maybe you just did like such an amazing job that everybody feels like their own rock star right now and they're ready to go out and develop all of these platforms and sites and everything. Or maybe they're looking forward to connecting with you individually after this too.
And I will say too, like sometimes like when you're making all these things, it can feel a little weird because you're just bragging about yourself. But it's important to do that. When I was looking for a job this last time, I reconnected with somebody who was on my graduate committee when I was in grad school. And he had let me know, like when it just came to like my CV and my resumes, like, some of these things make you sound like, you're trying to convince somebody that you're the professional that you are. He's like, but you are that professional. And you guys all are professionals already. Like you just because you're a college student, you're still a professional. So like when you're making all these things, like my official career title might not be a wildlife ecologist right now, but like that is what I'm doing. So like I always tell everybody, I am a wildlife ecologist. Not like, oh, I want to be a wildlife. No, that's what I am. So just make sure like kind of just, positive affirmations to yourself. Like you are a professional, even if you still just are in college right now, like you're still a professional and treat yourself like that and make sure that everybody else sees you as the professional that you know that you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Extra important to remember. Okay, let's see. I guess, I think unless somebody has like a last minute question that you're thinking and would like to type in, I think we've kind of covered it. I would just really, really encourage you to, reach out to Jess. She's not paying you lip service. She actually just loves connecting with people and helping somebody out. And she's not the only alum, by the way, that really enjoys that. So
look at the LinkedIn with all like the 2,000 plus people.
Yeah. So, she can be an amazing resource, but, she and Jackie and myself are also connected to so many other amazing resources too, so just if there's one piece of advice, it's put yourself out there. And I think it goes back to what Jess was saying. So, Jackie, is there anything else that you wanted to wrap up with at all?
It does look like someone's typing. Says a little chat window. Very cool. The only other thing I would say too is I just had a student tell me they took the opportunity last year to help and participate in one of our marketing videos that we did, talking about why he decided to come here. And over break, a friend of a family at a thing talking about, I saw you online talking about the work you're doing to become a, whatever it is that you all are becoming and talking about a job because he, took the opportunity to help us out by sharing his experience. And so I would extremely invite all the students, as if somebody reaches out, it's like, hey, any chance you would be willing to help, with something we're working on and share what it is you're doing at Northland? We put that out on our social media. And so that's you getting amplified out onto Northland social media. Not a bad thing, just saying. So, that I'm sure, Jess, helps your own personal social media when you can like leverage the connections that you have.
No. I've definitely had Northland share a lot of my stuff that I've done, and it's definitely got a lot more views on some of my things, and that's very useful. And that's always great about a small school too, because Northland wants to help you out. Whether it's the faculty and staff there now or the alumni, like Northland just wants to help you, and you get a lot more of that attention than you ever would get at Giant School. Like my relationship with Northland, where I try to talk to people who went to large universities, they just can't even fathom what I'm talking about.
Awesome. Okay, well, Jess, thank you so much. We are just always, so appreciative of your expertise and your willingness to share and take out time from your very busy schedule. So thank you so much. And thank you to students and alums and community members that showed up to listen in and learn something new. You are being active right now, you're engaged, this is your first step to, that professionalism that we're talking about. So kudos to all of you as well. So have a wonderful night, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you. I'll just look at the chat. So